Hey guys, so today I'm going to be showing you how to pin two pieces of fabric together. Now you will use this in a few situations. As I already said, you can use it to pin two pieces of fabric together, but it's also what you're going to use whenever you are pinning pattern pieces onto fabric. Okay, so the reason we're going over why there is a right and a wrong way to do this is you are pinning these things together so that you can move them around while you work with them. And so you need to be able to make sure they are not going to come undone while you're trying to move them. So case in point, I've actually seen this quite a few times in the classroom that I'll have people who put two pieces of fabric together, match them up, everything looks great, right? And now it looks like I just have one piece of fabric. That what they'll do is they'll just put a pin, like they're pushing a push pin into a cork board. They'll go like that. Which, you know, for a second, that's okay. But number one, first hazard we see is that that's just asking to poke somebody. Okay? Now, number two is this. When you pin it that way, you're actually not doing much to hold it together. And so sometimes even just, you know, moving it like that a little bit will pull it apart, and you can actually kind of see there if I pull these two sides apart, you can see my pin, but it's also just as easy as one piece snags on something and there it goes. Okay, so I'm going to show you the right way to pin something today, which is still pretty simple, but there's an extra step or two that is involved in that. So I've got my two pieces lined up again, as you can see. All right. Now, what I am going to do is take one of my pins. I'm going to set my pin cushion off to the side so that you can see just a little better. So I'm going to take one of my pins, and I'm actually going to start to push it into the fabric at just a little bit of an angle. Now, I'm doing it at an angle because I'm actually going to poke it through 2 times, and so my pin needs to be able to come forward. So I poke it at just a little bit of an angle going into my fabric, push it forward, and then without lifting my fabric off the table, I'm actually going to sneak my finger in there so it's just underneath where I want my pin to come out. Okay. Poke it up and pull it through. Okay, now here's the benefit, guys, is since it's going through 2 times, I guess if I pull really hard like that, it'll come undone. But look, I come back to that front side, it's still there. And to get it right back to how I had it pinned, magic. It's still exactly where I want it to be, okay? So, you can see it went through all my layers. I'm actually going to do that just a few more times, okay, just so that we see how that works. Now, guys, there's one other thing I want to emphasize as we're doing this, which is this. Put my pin down at an angle, push through both layers, push it forward, and then up again, which isn't actually what I wanted to emphasize, but it looks so good, right? So, as I am pushing my pins through, you may be picking up on a pattern to what I am doing, and it is this. My pins are always going to point towards the middle of my fabric. Okay, I've got 4 pins in there now, and you can see starting over here, it's pointing to the middle, pointing to the middle, pointing to the middle, and pointing to the middle. Okay, we want to do that because number one, we won't have those pointed tips hanging off the edge of our fabric to catch on things. Okay, but number two, this actually can kind of help to serve as a bit of a guide as you are sewing. That ideally, actually, you'd be putting your pins in right on top of where you want to sew. So if I was going to go just a little ways in from the edge the whole way around, you can see my pins are actually helping me to achieve that. And so I actually have my pins placed so that they are holding the fabric exactly where I want to sew without actually getting in the way of my stitches. Okay, so I could just keep sewing along this edge and I would be good to go without having to think about it, without having to stop. So, and I've almost made it the whole way around here. At this point, I may as well just finish that, but you can see I have a pin on every edge, on every corner, and that's actually a good guide to observe as well, that typically when you are getting something pinned together, you want to pin every 2 to 3 inches. Now guys, I know that you're looking at this on a video screen, so you're not going to necessarily see the 2 to 3 inches in the same way, but I do have my mat here that you can see each square is an inch, and I've got a pin placed about every 2 to 2.5 inches, okay? Now, you won't have a mat in front of you, so another way to double check is just to put down 3 fingers. And you can actually see that the whole way around, if I put down my 3 fingers, it just about lines up with where each of my pins is going to be. Okay? So, things that I want you to remember, pins need to point to the middle. Okay? Now, pins point to the middle, they need to go through all layers of your fabric. And the way that you do that is you push it down towards your fabric at just a bit of an angle, push it forward, and then stop it with your finger and push it through, making sure that you catch both layers. Okay? Good luck with pinning.